y'all, I'm Hope at Crafty Hope and welcome. It is time for me to work on my week 50 mixed media prompt project for hashtag Crafty Hope prompts. This is called Crafty Hope prompts, and that's because I created this back at the beginning of October 2022. Realizing that there were 52 cards in a playing card deck and 52 weeks in a year, I thought that was a great opportunity for me to build up a prompt deck. So each week on Monday, I've been drawing 3 prompts from my list of 156 prompts. I have a link to that list below if you'd like to use it. But I'm drawing those 3 prompts and then altering that playing card so that one side is decorative using those prompts, and then the other side is more functional and includes those prompt words, so that when I complete this deck I can later on pull these prompt cards, and my plan is to pull a couple of them and pick like one from each card to use in a project, or to pull one and pick one of the 3 that's on there and then pull another one and pick one of the 3, you know, that kind of thing. Just have a prompt deck with, you know, it's a better way to have prompts, I think. So that's what I've been doing every Monday. Then on the Saturday following that, I'm doing a different project so that I'm not kind of putting myself in the structure of just making cards. I'm using those prompts in other ways, seeing how those 3 prompts combine in different ways, that kind of thing. So that's what I've been doing for the past 49 weeks. Like I said, we're on week 50. I made this card using the prompts pencil, rust, and masking tape, and it's time to do a project. Now sometimes that project is an art journal page or junk journal page. That's what I did this past week, was an art journal page, but I've also done lots of tags and little assemblage things and bookmarks and jewelry and all kinds of different projects. There's a full playlist at the end of this of all of those projects, along with a couple other people's kind of tossed in there for fun, that you can look at to see how these prompts have been interpreted and used, along with further explanations of them. So like I said, this week I drew pencil, rust, and masking tape. And I'll show you what I've gathered and kind of what my idea is, and we're going to get started on this project. So for pencil, I have just some regular pencils. These are mostly regular old mechanical and writing pencils, things you would get in a school supply section. This one I believe is a like a drafting pencil of some kind, but it's just a mechanical pencil. And then some drawing pencils. I've got an H and an HB. I've got more different pencils. If you don't have pencils like that, you could also, I've got another mechanical one. You could use something else. You could use colored pencils or a Stabilo all pencil or some other way. Just take the word pencil, and if you have a stamp that looks like a pencil, or if pencil inspires you in some other way, go with that. This is about how, you know, I'm interpreting these prompts my way, and if they spring something else to your mind, please interpret them in that way. Okay, so for rust, y'all, I love rusty things. It's really my jam to have grungy, rusty things around me. I spend a lot of time. We've got 5 acres of property here. It's old property. I find rusty nails and keys and old farm equipment and all kinds of stuff out here all the time, and I love it. I love to kind of go out there. Right now it's a little too hot. We're still kind of in summer here, and it's been brutal this year. So it's hard to get out there and find the things. I'm waiting for it to cool down a bit to do some more exploring. But this time around, I am using I pulled out this little container. It is a bunch of rusty nails. These are actually ones, I have my own rusty nails I found out here. But my friend, oh my gosh, why do I do that? Why do I talk about somebody and I draw a blank? I will try to link her Instagram below. Sent me a bunch of rusty nails from her property, I think, and I am really upset with myself for like blinking like that. I should write that down before I get on camera. Anyway, she sent me these rusty nails. I think that's what I'm going to use. If not, I will pull out some of my other rusty treasures. And then masking tape, that is easy enough. I have this wide spool and this smaller one. Any kind of like painter's tape or washi tape or other low-tack tape could be used for that. I do have washi as one of the other prompts, so I didn't want to do that personally myself, but I do love some masking tape. So these are my supplies here. This is what I have. What do you think I'm going to do with this? It probably says in the title down below. I think I'm going to work on a canvas. So I like square canvases. I was trying to go back and forth between these two, and I'm still not sure. I think this is the one I've decided on. They're both 6x6 canvases. But thinking about the masking tape, one of the ways I like to use masking tape is, if you saw my vlog series with my stitched index card a day, I use masking tape a lot on the back of the cards to secure my stitching, and that is a great way to use it here as well. But I'm going to use it on the front, I think, as a texture. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking. That was probably way more than you needed, and we're going to start working on this canvas, I think. All right, here we go. So I'm going to first bring out that masking tape to add some texture. If you saw my video where I made the card, you saw that I added Stabilo to it to kind of bring out like the tears and the texture and all that. The way you can layer the masking tape really lends itself. Of course, I mean, you don't have to be restricted by putting it in strips or whatever. You can, of course, cut it in any kind of shape you want or tear it in different shapes. But I'm being kind of organic with this. You see, I am tearing these wider ones. I might even do it with when I get to the other one. Tearing it in half and then putting the straight edges, letting them butt up against each other so that the outside edges of each of these are torn edges, which I know I've seen somebody else do that in videos, and I cannot put my finger on who it is, but I really like that technique so that it is those torn edges that really gets the attention. Now I'm making sure I also go over the edges some. This is a canvas, and if it's hung on the wall as it is, of course those edges will show, so I don't want them to be boring and blank. And yeah, so I'm going to make sure some of this masking tape, I'll collage here in a little bit, and all of that will also show. So you can see I'm putting some of the tape on top of each other, just again, texture. Now remembering that this is a low tack tape, I know that it can peel up fairly easily. Oh, I had to go get my water. I had taken it off my desk. I will put some other adhesive on top of this to make sure it is sealed down. But for now, I'm going to add additional texture. This is a visual texture more than anything, with just, that is a cheap mechanical pencil there. I'm holding it way at the top of it toward the eraser end and just loosely drawing some lines, something super simple. I'm going to use my Liquitex matte medium there. It's a fluid medium and I'm showing you my grungy towel because I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is so gross. But I'm going to use it to not only collage down bits of scraps and papers that are in my stash there, but to seal the tops of all of that masking tape. So the first thing I put down was a piece of ledger paper that was probably a scrap from when I pulled the ledger prompt a couple weeks ago. And this next piece I think is some Stabilo All that I just made. No, not this one, but you see the one with the little marks on it. I think that's some Stabilo All pencil that's on there. So when I add the fluid medium to it, it is going to smear just a little. The marks themselves don't disappear completely, but you'll see I'll get a little bit more grunginess. But the same thing kind of happens with this cheap pencil too. As I start going over, see there, some of those areas, some of that pencil smears just a little bit. So I'm going with it. I smeared it all over the place. I was like, why not? If I'm going to smear it in one place, let's smear it everywhere else. Now I like, because the canvas itself is not is textured, that's why I'm using the matte medium. I could have even used a heavier medium, like a gel medium or a heavy gel medium to do this, but I decided just to go ahead and use the fluid. I wasn't, I didn't think real hard about it. It's just what I decided to grab. And I probably should have, because some of these papers, like that one with the Stabilo on there, is kind of heavy. But I like the way that the fluid medium moves. So that's why I'm using it. But I really probably should have gone with something a little more firm. So yeah, and I'm adding this. I am not going to cover this entire canvas with collage. tends to be my jam. I'm trying to learn to back off a little and leave some white space and let things show and really just kind of see the substrates for what they are. I like that little bit of white space, so I'm going to keep it on there. So this is some dictionary paper. I think I'll pull in another piece of dictionary paper. And a lot of these things will not be seen in the end, but it's the parts that end up peeking out a little bit that really make me happy. I just did the 10 arty questions that Nina Fickett and I did and watched Laura of Laura Mixed Media's video here. And she mentioned that her favorite layer when she's working in layers are the parts that peek through. And that wasn't my answer, but I love that answer. It really is some of the little details, the things that maybe you have to step a little closer to see, are really some of the best layers. I think she's right about that. And in the end of this, you see that typewritten page that's over there on the right. That shows through a little bit more than some of the other layers. And it's possibly one of my favorite parts of this in the end. I like this whole piece and then this whole canvas assemblage. I really like it. I went with what I enjoy using and making and doing, and it worked out pretty beautifully. So you may not be able to see some of the masking tape. You may not be able to see some of the pencil, but it's there, and it all adds up to what comes out in the end. And so when you work with these prompts or with other prompts, and I think I failed to mention, if you want to play along with this challenge, then do use these prompts. Either pull from the prompt list that I have provided in the link below, or use these prompts. And if you would, just use the hashtag CraftyHopePrompts and tag me so that I can see what you make. So if you share it, if not, that's fine. Just go get inspired, create something, have fun with it. And like I was saying, these prompts don't have to show through in the end. It's all building blocks to create a final piece. So I am just about done with this here, so I'm making sure I've covered all of that masking tape with my matte gel, making sure it's nice and sealed down, so none of that is going to peel up, because we don't want that. And so I'm going to dry this canvas real quick, and then come in with some more of that pencil, and I end up using just this super cheap mechanical pencil the whole way through this project, just the single one, and y'all, it's like a non-brand one. It's super the cheapest of the cheap mechanical pencils. But I just kind of went over some of the lines that were there just loosely, because it made me feel good to kind of just, loosely go around them, get some texture. And I'm going to start thinking about my composition of how I'm going to add these rusty nails on here. And while I tend to go with more of an organic feel when I create things, I kind of wanted this to be a little more structured, so I'm going to use 5 rusty nails right in the center of my canvas, just like this. And so I've got those laid out, pulled out. I know that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to put them off to the side while I go on to the next step of this. First, I got to fix a couple little things that are coming up. And I just used my finger there because I don't mind getting a little matte gel on my finger. There's some people I know really hate that feel. I kind of like that when I wash my hands, the peeling off of it. I love that sensation that all of us, I probably at some point put Elmer's school glue on our hands and then peeled it off. And that's what the matte gel is like to me, that kindergarten peeling up of the school glue from your fingers. All right, so you saw there I dabbed just a little bit of gesso onto my canvas. This is some Liquitex gesso. I've got it just in a smaller container, so it's because my container is huge, and this one I can just keep on my desk and use as I need. So I'm using a little brayer to kind of unevenly get it all over the place. Like I said, I really like an organic feel of it, and in this process of me moving it around, I changed the orientation of this canvas, which was fine because none of it was important or particular, needed to be in a certain direction. So that was fine. And I've brought in a couple of Lindy's sprays. That one was, I believe, Shabby Turbine Teal. And this one, y'all, I don't even know. I'll have to Oh, yeah, I don't know. I will put them in the description box below of what they are. I forgot to take note of them. I just kind of grabbed them. I knew I just wanted blues because I knew that a blue would go really well with the rust and give it a really nice background, whereas like an orange, the rust wouldn't sit as well on it because it's too much of a similar color. At least in my head, that's how it worked. So I did water that down so it could move around a little bit. And you can see it's picking up all that texture, and the gesso is acting a bit like a resist. And when it dried, it was a little less dark than I wanted. It was, had lightened up some. So I sprayed a bit more of the Shabby Turbine Teal on there. I'm only adding a smidge of water just to make it move a little bit. And then I'm going to dry it just like that. And I'm trying to push it in different directions with my heat tool. And yeah, it came out pretty awesome. Once it was done, I felt like there were a couple areas that still needed like a bit of black and a bit of texture to it. So I grabbed this texture stamp. It's the Ledger Script stamp from Tim Holtz. I think it's a Stampers Anonymous stamp. And some Stays On because I knew that blue would move, but I didn't want these black marks to move. So I thought I was done there, put it up, and realized that in that upper right corner, you can kind of see there's a big like white area with a little bit of blue on it. So I'm going to, just add a little bit more, just a whoosh, and then whoosh, and that's it. And I'll stamp it off on my under paper. Okay, now that's done, I've got some Liquitex acrylic gold ink, one of my favorite things. And even though it wasn't on my list on those 10 arty questions, but I wanted to put some blobs of it on here. Now I could have gone with gold paint. Would have been just as pretty. I definitely have some of that. It would have been thicker. It wouldn't have moved things around as much as this ink did, but I really wanted the fluidity of the gold ink on here. So that's what I went with. I love how it dries, and I'm just making these blobs on here, making sure a couple of them go off the edge. I didn't do quite as well good of a job as I had hoped I would, so I'll come back once I dried this and add more to the edges to make sure some of that gold is there on the edges as well. So I'm getting my blobs, and I will splatter a little bit of that gold because I cannot help myself. I've got it. I had it all over me. It's probably on my nice shirt that I was wearing. I really ought to cover up my clothes. Yeah, when I'm crafting. All right, so I'm going to take a little time and dry this. It took a while because that was wet, very wet. It's inky wet. And y'all, look how that dries. It's so pretty. It's that gold. And y'all, I've never been like somebody that wears gold, but there's something about the gold in art pieces that just makes it so special. So as you can see, I'm going to add, especially where it's going off the edges already, just make sure there's a continuation of it. I'm sorry, I'm off camera here. I was trying to get it like close to me and holding it straight up and down so I could get it right. Yeah. And I'll try to splatter it here a little in a second. It does not do good because this canvas did not want to stay up on its own. See, watch. Oh, nope. Nope. And I realized I could not splatter and hold it. So I did what I could and was like, you know what, just give up. Just stop. So I was absolutely covered with gold ink, but that's okay. They could be worse. And from there, I realized it's time to just start putting down my rusty bits. So I'm pulling out these nails and I don't know why I'm laying it out again. I already knew that's what I wanted to do. So I was like, yep, that's what I'm going to do. And then I started looking for thread. I was trying to decide if I wanted to use a gold thread or something maybe that was the same color as the nails themselves. But I decided really some black. This didn't have near enough like of a pop of black on it that I would just use some black thread. Now the thread that I end up using, y'all, is from a hair weave kit from the Dollar Tree. I keep it on my desk because it's just a nicely woven thread. I just like it. I don't know. And I've got a fairly substantial needle. This is probably a doll needle, I think is what they are. They're really long and sturdy, and I like it for going through the canvas. So I lined up my nail, my rusty nail where I wanted it, and poked a hole on one side of it. And then went in through the back. I did not tie a knot because I don't need one because I'm going to tie it in a second. And then I poked another hole on the other side and I'll pull my needle through. And this is what's going to hold my nails on. So I'm going to hold this very tight on here and tie a double knot, 1 and 2, as tight as I can. And really, this knot, for at least for this nail, y'all, was so super tight. I could have just left it at it, but I really like the idea of securing it again at the bottom. You see me wiggling it. I'm like, that's actually really good. I could just leave it. But I went ahead and poked my other hole there and to mark it so I could go in through the back, and then went through the top and the front. I'll make sure everything's straight that way I want it. Hold it really tight, make it sure it's super tight, and again tie a double knot. And y'all, I'm going to do this 4 more times, so I'm going to speed this up here for y'all in just a second because I think you get the idea. I was going to just skip ahead, but I know some of you would prefer to go ahead and just watch how I do this, so you're going to get to see it all. I may just go ahead and turn some music on here while I do this. I don't think there's a whole lot to explain to this. I'll show you one more time. I poke a hole to show where I want to go through, pull it up, and then place my nail, poke the other hole, pull the thread through, turn it over, and tie a knot. And then I'll do it again at the bottom. Now, when I did these, I'm also making sure that like their centers are kind of lined up so that there's like a center line going through them so that they're, I don't know, kind of evenly done. And I'm also making sure they're evenly spaced between one another, but I'm not using a ruler. It's all eyeballed. It may not even be level, y'all. I'm just, yeah, eyeballing all of it. So, what else did I want to tell you? There was something else about how I did this I want to tell you. I'm also making sure that where I put the thread is a little bit lower on each of them, so it's kind of a stepping up and a stepping down of the thread. So, okay, that's what I wanted to tell you about what the decisions I made for this were, and I'm going to let you watch me finish the rest of this, and I will see you in just a second. Once I tied that last one off, I still felt like it needed more black or something on it, and they didn't feel completely as stable as I wanted them to on there. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll just put a center stitch over each of them. But I was like, ugh, do I really want to go through all of that again? What if I just put one big stitch over the top of them? But I was like, how would I do that? Because I'll show you the back of the frame in a second. yeah, the wood there comes out a lot further than I would like it to. So I held it there going, I really, really like how that looks. What if and when I turned it over, I saw the staples on the back of it that holds the canvas onto the frame. And I was like, what if I just stapled this down? So sure enough, I went and got my staple gun, and I'm going to line this up where I want it, making sure everything is nice on there. And I'll turn it over, and using my hardware staple gun, make sure I get one staple exactly where I want it. I'm going to grab a little hammer and make sure that's hammered down tight so that that isn't moving. You can see I'm kind of wiggling it. And then I'm going to pull this as tight as I can across the front of the frame and make it, again, as middle of the center, as centered as I can. And y'all, I make this next staple, I missed the thread entirely, so I had to make a second staple there. It's okay. It's on the back. It's fine. And then I'll trim this off, and I'll look at it for a second and decide I wanted to bring some more pencil into it. So I'll grab, and I had decided this one, I think I put my fourth nail on. I'd make some marks before I put it down, and so I'm adding a few more, just going around some of those gold blobs with it a little bit to get some more pencil sketchiness. And that's it, y'all. I love this piece so much. It's assemblage, it's mixed media, it's collage, it's blue and gold, and I love it. I hope you do too. If you do, make sure to give me a thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let me know if you have any questions about this challenge, or how I got this idea, or how you can play along, or just the materials I have, anything. Just ask away. I'd love to answer your questions. All right, guys, I will see y'all very soon on Monday for week 51's prompts. All right, see you then. Bye.